There is a certain silence that follows people like you. A quiet strength everyone admires. A calm competence that makes others say, "You always seem to have it handled." But they do not see the truth. That sometimes, late at night, when the world softens and the noise fades, you feel the weight of carrying everything alone. Maybe you are watching this from your bedroom. Maybe from a parked car. Maybe from a long bus ride home. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Because this moment is just between us. Hyper-independence is not about pride. It is about survival. It is the child who learned there was no one coming to help. The teenager who realized emotions made other people uncomfortable. The adult who decided that relying on anyone felt like stepping onto a cracking floor. If you grew up with unpredictable support, your nervous system adapted fast. It learned to self-soothe, self-manage, self-contain. It learned that needing others came with a cost. That vulnerability opened the door to disappointment. That leaning on people felt like placing a fragile part of yourself into unsteady hands. You became strong because you had no choice. You became capable because no one noticed when you were struggling. You became self-sufficient because it was the only reliable form of safety. That was not weakness. That was survival. And now, years later, your independence looks admirable on the outside. But inside, it feels like a quiet ache. A kind of loneliness that does not come from being alone, but from never feeling like you are allowed to be held. Has that ever felt true for you? That you want closeness, yet the moment someone gets near, your instinct is to step back, to manage it yourself, to prove you do not need anything from anyone. Stay with me. There is a reason you became this way. There is a moment in childhood that rarely gets talked about. Not the loud moments, not the obvious ones, but the quiet realizations. The ones that settle into your bones before you even know what they mean. Maybe you learned young that asking for help created tension. A sigh, a delay, a look that told you your needs were inconvenient. So you stopped asking. Maybe the people who were supposed to protect you were distracted, overwhelmed, unavailable, not cruel, just absent in the way it matters most to a child. Emotionally, steadily, predictably absent. So your mind made a decision long before you had the words for it. I will handle myself. It is safer this way. From that day forward, independence became your armor, your shield, your way of surviving a world that did not notice the weight you carried. Psychology sometimes describes this as protective detachment, a reflex that forms when your nervous system learns it cannot rely on others for regulation. So it does the regulating alone, silently, efficiently, endlessly, and people grew to expect that from you. You became the dependable one, the problem solver, the advisor, the one others could lean on because you never leaned back. But here is the truth you have probably never said out loud. Your strength was shaped by a childhood that did not leave room for softness. Your independence was carved out of moments when you needed someone and no one came. You did not choose this role. You inherited it. Think about the small ways it shows up now. At work, you take on tasks alone because asking for support feels like failure. In friendships, you listen with your whole heart, yet struggle to share even one piece of your own story. In love, you crave closeness, yet pull away the moment someone tries to help you. Not because you do not trust them, but because trusting feels foreign, unstable, exposed. If this is you, breathe softly. You are not broken for being this independent. You are someone who adapted to a world that taught you self-reliance before you were ready. This is not your fault. This is your origin story. And origin stories can change. There is a moment your body remembers, even if your mind forgets. The moment you realized that depending on someone felt dangerous. Not physically, emotionally. A kind of instability that made your chest tighten. A kind of unpredictability that taught you to hold your own weight because no one else reliably could. This is where hyper-independence grows. Not from confidence, but from caution. Your nervous system learned to stay braced, to scan for disappointment before it arrived, to keep your hopes low so the fall would hurt less. Some researchers call this anticipatory protection, a form of emotional forecasting that tries to prevent future pain by avoiding present vulnerability. You might not even notice yourself doing it, because it feels natural now, automatic, like breathing in reverse. Think about how it appears in your life. Someone offers help and you say, "I'm fine," before they finish the sentence. Your voice is gentle, but firm, as if accepting support would place you in debt. Someone asks what you need. You freeze for a second, Because you do not have a language for needs. You learn to shape yourself around other people's preferences instead of naming your own. Someone tries to show you love. At first it feels warm, then suddenly overwhelming. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts race. Your instinct says step back before it becomes too real. If this is you, you are not cold. You are protecting the softest part of yourself. The part that once reached out and found nothing steady to hold on to. There is something else beneath this pattern. A truth most people never see. You do not avoid relying on others because you think you are strong. You avoid it because you fear the collapse that happens when support disappears. That was not weakness. That was survival. Your independence is a story written by a past where your only anchor was yourself. But survival scripts are not permanent. They can be rewritten. They can soften. They can evolve. Has that ever felt true for you? That the world sees your strength, but they never see the loneliness behind it. Stay with me. There is more beneath this armor than you realize. There is a specific kind of loneliness that follows hyper-independence. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is the kind that sits beside you quietly. In the car after a long day. In the grocery store aisle. In the middle of a room full of people who think you are perfectly fine. You move through life with this steady competence. You solve problems quickly. You anticipate needs before anyone asks. You carry your emotions like hidden luggage, tightly zipped, and no one ever suspects that underneath it all, you are tired of being the strong one. If this is you, you recognize the scenes. At work, you take on more than your share because it feels easier than delegating. Letting others help feels slower. Messier, less safe. So you say, I've got it. Even when your whole body whispers, I am carrying too much. In friendships, you are the grounding force. The listener, the stable one. You give advice with clarity but swallow your own pain in silence. Sharing feels unnatural, almost intrusive. You fear becoming someone else's weight. In love, you crave closeness yet fear it at the same time. You want to lean. You want to rest. But the moment someone reaches for you, your instinct is to straighten your spine and say, I'm okay, even when you are not. You have built an identity on reliability, on being the person who never falls apart. But somewhere inside, you wish someone would notice when your voice gets quiet, when your steps get heavier, when you disappear just a bit more each day. This pattern is not your fault. It is the residue of years spent learning that your softness was unsupported, that your needs were inconvenient, that your emotions were something you had to manage alone. You were not being too independent. You were being overneeded. That matters. Has that ever felt true for you? Stay with me. Relief is not as far away as you think. There is a softer way to live, a way that does not demand silence from you, a way that does not require you to be the strong one in every room. It starts quietly, not with a grand shift, but with a small moment of honesty, a moment where you let yourself say, I am tired, even if it is only said inside your own mind. Hyper-independence loosens slowly, like unbuttoning armor one clasp at a time. Try this first, a micro practice for your nervous system. When someone offers help, pause for 2 seconds before answering. Not long, just enough space to feel the instinct rising in your chest. The instinct to say, I'm fine. In that little pause, ask yourself, would it hurt to let someone hold even one corner of this with me? Sometimes the smallest yes can soften years of bracing. Second, practice naming one internal truth each day. Not a confession, not a full story, just a simple sentence that brings you back to yourself. I am overwhelmed. I could use a break. I miss feeling supported. You do not have to say it to anyone else, but you deserve to hear honesty in your own voice. Third, rehearse a boundary with kindness. Something like, I cannot take that on right now, or I need a moment to myself. People do not leave because of boundaries. They leave because they never expected you to have any. And here is the identity reframe I want to give you. You are not too much. You were overneeded. Your independence was not a flaw. It was a shield that grew around a child who had to be stronger than they should have been. Has that ever felt true for you? You are allowed to set this shield down sometimes. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just enough to let yourself breathe. Relief does not always look like crying in someone's arms. Sometimes relief looks like accepting a small kindness without flinching. Sometimes it looks like sitting still without preparing for impact. Sometimes it looks like letting someone walk beside you, instead of several steps behind. You have spent years holding yourself together alone. You can begin learning the art of being held. Slowly, gently, at your own pace. Return for a moment to the first image. You, standing alone in a quiet room, your shoulders slightly lifted, your breath shallow, carrying more than anyone ever realized. Now watch how the scene begins to shift. The room has not changed. The lamp still glows softly. The air is still warm in that calm, late evening way, but something in you relaxes. Not fully, not suddenly, just enough for your body to remember that it does not have to be the hero of every moment. You spent years believing your strength was your only safety, that if you softened, everything you held together would fall apart, that if you let someone see your need, they would step back instead of stepping closer. But here is a quieter truth. Your independence is part of you. It is a skill, a story, a survival strategy that kept you alive in places where softness would have been crushed. And yet, you can be strong without being alone. You can be capable without carrying everything. You can be self-sufficient without being self-abandoned. Picture yourself standing by that window, rain soft against the glass, your reflection meeting your eyes for the first time in a long time. Not as someone who must do it all, but as someone who is allowed to be held, allowed to rest, allowed to be human in the way you always needed. This is the part most people never see. The bravery it takes to loosen your grip. The courage in saying, I could use a hand. The quiet rebellion of letting yourself lean, even a little. You do not have to transform overnight. Healing is not an all or nothing act. It is a return, a small step toward the softness you buried for safety. If this sounded like your story, write one word below, a word your younger self needed, a word that feels like a hand to your heart. Maybe trust, maybe rest, maybe enough. And before you go, share this quietly with someone who carries too much in silence. Someone who deserves to know they no longer have to hold the whole world alone. You are not defined by how much you endure. You are defined by the tenderness you are learning to allow. And there is room for you, even when you are not the strong one. You can stay, you can soften, you can let someone meet you, and the world will not collapse when you do.